Wow, could it be another month already? Well, yeah, it's time for Trekland and switching to visual to help my good friend Curtis out bring you another sneak peek at his next Spirit of Star Trek guest. And boy, they're all great, but this one needs no introduction.
Well, hello once again. Here we are looking at another Spirit of Star Trek coming up October the 11th. I want to introduce you to my two friends here. This is Buddy, and over here is Lola. And they have...
Apparently I'm not one of Curtis's friends. So.
Well, you know, it's a hard club to get into.
They have nothing to do with Star Trek, but aren't they cute dogs?
Well, they have something to do with Star Trek when you think about it, because they're my dogs, and I have something to do with Star Trek. So.
Oh, and you are Robert Picardo.
That's right, and this is the holographic Chihuahua.
The holographic Chihuahua.
And the holographic mixed breed right here. They unfortunately will not be able to come on October 11th.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that.
Oh, okay. So no false advertising.
They
you don't
would
get
be quite welcome. No. Are they church broken?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that would be a problem.
Yeah.
That would be a problem. Because the cleaning crew complains when that sort of thing happens.
Yeah, well, I'm church broken, I can promise you.
Good. I'd checked on that first. So
I was going to say, I thought you would have cleared that up first.
We cleared that up. So Bob will be with us on October the 11th, and our episode is called Latent Image. And this is an episode that centers, of course, on the Doctor. And we've talked about this before, but part of what Star Trek does best is asking the question, what does it mean to be human? And so often, the characters who explore that in the greatest depth are not themselves human. And the Doctor, I've always found to be one of the most fascinating characters in Star Trek, for that very reason.
I remember when I first spoke with Joe Minosky, one of our writer-producers and the writer of the script for Latent Image, he said that this script marked the birth of the Doctor's human soul. Because he was forced to make a sort of a Sophie's choice kind of decision, and then he could not reconcile himself with the guilt that consumed him for having made the decision to treat the crewman that he knew better, that he had a personal connection with, versus the crew person that he barely knew. So the fact that he had made it a decision in treating one that he felt was selfish in a way, he kind of unraveled as emotionally and I guess you could even say spiritually. He couldn't fix himself after that, and that's really what the episode is about. So it's a very dramatic one for the Doctor. There's not his kind of trademark arrogance and windbag nature in such an obvious amount as we saw in so many other shows. But it's really quite it's one of my favorites, and I think one of the more meaningful ones for me as a character.
Absolutely. Now the Doctor, I imagine, has to have been a very challenging character to develop, because you started with virtually no backstory. You had nothing going in. Maybe Zimmerman's backstory is your backstory. But so many other characters in Star Trek came in with, you knew about the species, there had been some relationship or another in the past, and you really had a blank slate to write on. What was that like?
Well, ultimately, it turned out to be an advantage. When I first got the role, it was a little confusing because I'd never gotten a character that had no backstory. It's really not possible, I guess, unless you play a character who's a complete amnesiac. Is that the word? Amnesiac? Amnesiac. Someone who's forgotten everything.
Right.
They had a backstory, but they don't remember what it is, so it's effectively like not having one. The Doctor, being a newly activated computer program, was programmed with a certain amount of information. Was programmed with the personal experiences of a number of well-known Starfleet doctors. And he had these new emotional subroutines that were supposed to help him develop empathy for his patients that didn't quite work off the bat. So, but he was effectively, as an individual, a blank slate. And that seemed a little confusing at first, but ended up being probably the greatest advantage that I had in playing the role, because he started from nothing. There was the potential for a greater character arc, but also I did not have to obey the usual, what's the word, straitjacket of having to be stalwart, brave, and true as any other Starfleet officer would have to be.
When you first started playing the Doctor, did you have any idea the kind of humanity your character was going to develop, the trail that he was going to go down?
I knew that Brent Spiner's character, Data, had been a very, not only a popular character, but had a great arc on that show, and he was the artificial intelligence character on Next Generation, and I was indeed the next generation of artificial intelligence character. So I was a little scared at first to be compared to such a popular character and such a lovable character that he portrayed. And I think that in order to distinguish me from Data, that's why they made me such a curmudgeonly, unpleasant, full of attitude type of character, because he was so open and enthusiastic. But of course, Data had no emotions as a character until they made it to the big screen and he got the emotion chip. But throughout the Next Generation, 7 years, that was something that he always sort of pined for and longed for. Or I suppose early on maybe he didn't care, so but he grew to want to envy that human capacity. I think that had I been more knowledgeable, really, or thought more about it going in, because it all happened pretty quickly, I might have realized the potential the character had. But frankly, when I read the description in the pilot, colorless, humorless, a computer program of a doctor, it didn't sound like it was going to be a 7-year joyride.
It didn't just reach out and grab you, huh?
No, it sounded like a good job to take to put my kids through college, but other than that, a bit of a drudge. Well, I was wrong.
Right. In fact, you weren't really, we did an early interview. I remember you weren't really in favor of it. You'd read for Neelix and weren't thrilled to consider anything else? And
I originally turned down the audition for the Doctor and asked to read for Neelix instead, because it was a bigger part and he seemed more lovable. And it had that pesky humanoid description. And when my agent called the production company and said, how long will the actor be in makeup per day? And there was, they said, well, we'll have to get back to you. And they got back to him with the information, more than 15 minutes. And I would say 3.5 hours is more than 15 minutes, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So they were actually completely candid in that respect.
More than 15 minutes. Pretty amazing.
So, as it turns out, however, the fact that I came close to Neelix but missed out ended up, I think, saving me about 5,562 hours in the makeup chair.
Sounds about right.
Which I was able to devote to dog training and other hobbies.
Well, I can see these are extraordinarily well-behaved dogs.
They are well behaved.
Just sitting right here.
This one's slowly peeing on my lap right now.
As I understand it, the audition for the Doctor had some interesting moments.
Well, should we give everything away, or should we invite people to come on the 11th?
I think this is a good place to stop.
That's called a teaser.
There you go.
That's called a teaser. And you can hear the story of the audition, but we're going to talk about a whole lot more than that. You have gotten just the tiniest little glimpse of what this conversation is going to look like. October the 11th, First Presbyterian Church of Encino, 4963 Balboa Boulevard. Our guest will be the incomparable Robert Picardo. Oh, and we start at 7 o'clock sharp with Latent Image. Hope to see you there.